You just picked up your phone to check the time. 3 hours later, you're watching a video about a guy who builds miniature furniture for hamsters, and you have no idea how you got here. Welcome to Mind Vault, where we unlock the psychology behind technology, addiction, and human behavior. Today, we're exposing the dark psychological manipulation tactics that social media companies use to hijack your brain, and more importantly, how to break free without becoming a hermit living in the woods. Let me paint you a picture. It's 11 p.m. You tell yourself you're just going to check Instagram real quick before bed. Just a quick scroll to see what everyone's up to. 2 hours later, you've watched 47 reels about things you don't care about, stalked your high school ex's new girlfriend's cousin, and somehow ended up on a page selling custom socks with your pet's face on them. You finally put your phone down at 1 a.m., and your last thought before falling asleep is, "I need to stop doing this." Spoiler alert, tomorrow night, you'll do it again. This isn't a failure of willpower. This isn't because you're weak or undisciplined. You're literally fighting against teams of PhDs, neuroscientists, and behavioral psychologists, whose entire job is to make these apps as addictive as humanly possible. It's like trying to win a fist fight against a boxing champion, while they've got brass knuckles and you've got pool noodles. The dark psychology behind social media addiction starts with something called variable ratio reinforcement schedules, which is a fancy way of saying slot machine mechanics. When you pull the lever on a slot machine, you don't know if you'll win or lose. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get a little reward, and very rarely you hit the jackpot. This unpredictability is what makes gambling so addictive. Social media companies took this exact same principle and weaponized it. Every time you refresh your feed, you're pulling that slot machine lever. Sometimes there's nothing interesting. Sometimes there's a mildly amusing post. And occasionally, there's something that gives you a massive dopamine hit. A notification that someone liked your photo, a message from someone you're attracted to, or a post that makes you laugh out loud. Your brain can't predict when the reward is coming, so it keeps pulling the lever. Refresh, scroll, check, repeat. You're essentially a lab rat pressing a button for food pellets, except the food pellets are likes, and the cage is a rectangular piece of glass you carry everywhere. But it gets darker. Social media platforms have perfected what psychologists call the infinite scroll. Back in the old days of the internet, when you got to the bottom of a web page, you had to make a conscious decision to click to the next page. That tiny moment of friction gave your brain a chance to ask, "Do I really want to keep doing this?" Infinite scroll eliminated that moment of reflection. The content just keeps coming automatically, endlessly, like a digital conveyor belt of distraction. Your brain never gets a chance to pause and reconsider because there's always something new appearing just as you finish processing the last thing. It's like trying to stop eating potato chips if the bag magically refilled itself every time you reached for the last chip. Then there's the genius manipulation of the notification system. Social media companies have studied exactly how long they should wait before sending you a notification to maximize your anxiety and engagement. They don't send notifications immediately when someone interacts with your content. They batch them strategically to create maximum psychological impact. It's like they're training you like Pavlov trained his dogs, except instead of ringing a bell before feeding time, they're sending you random dopamine hits throughout the day to keep you in a constant state of anticipation. Your brain starts checking your phone not because you consciously decided to, but because you've been conditioned to expect rewards at unpredictable intervals. The psychology gets even more sinister when you understand the role of social comparison. Social media has turned everyone into unwitting participants in a 24/7 comparison Olympics, where everyone is competing but nobody wins. You're constantly measuring your behind-the-scenes blooper reel against everyone else's highlight reel, and somehow you always come up short. This triggers what psychologists call FOMO, fear of missing out, which is really just anxiety dressed up in internet slang. Every time you see someone having fun without you, traveling to places you haven't been, or achieving things you haven't achieved, your brain interprets it as social rejection or personal failure. And what do you do when you feel anxious or inadequate? You scroll more, looking for content that will make you feel better, which inevitably makes you feel worse. It's a psychological trap that would make Kafka proud. You're using the thing that's making you miserable to escape the misery it's creating. It's like drinking seawater when you're thirsty. It feels like it should help, but it actually makes the problem worse. Let's talk about the like button, possibly the most psychologically destructive feature ever invented. When Facebook introduced the like button in 2012, they unleashed a mechanism that turned human validation into a quantifiable metric. Suddenly, your worth wasn't just something you felt. It was something you could count. The problem is that your brain treats social validation like a drug. Every like triggers a small release of dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in addiction to substances like cocaine and methamphetamine. I'm not being dramatic. Brain scans show that getting likes on social media lights up the same neural pathways as taking drugs. But here's where it gets really dark. Social media companies know that keeping you slightly dissatisfied is better for engagement than making you fully satisfied. If every post you made got thousands of likes, you might feel content and stop posting as much. But if your posts get unpredictable amounts of engagement, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, you'll keep posting more, trying to recreate that high from your most successful post. They've gamified human connection and turned your relationships into a performance where you're constantly seeking approval from an audience of people who are mostly half paying attention while scrolling through their own feeds. It's like being a comedian performing for a crowd that's simultaneously watching other comedians while you're on stage. The autoplay feature on videos is another psychological manipulation tactic that deserves its own horror movie. You finish watching one video, and before your brain can decide whether to continue or close the app, another video starts playing automatically. This exploits what psychologists call continuation desire, the tendency to keep doing something once it's already in motion. It's much harder to stop an action than to not start one in the first place. Social media companies know this, so they remove all the stopping points. The video ends, but the experience doesn't. The next video is already playing, and your brain thinks, well, I'm already watching. Might as well see what this one is about. 47 videos later, you're watching someone restore a rusty lawnmower, and you don't even own a lawnmower. Let's talk about the algorithmic feed, the artificial intelligence system that decides what content you see. This isn't arranged chronologically or randomly. It's specifically curated based on sophisticated psychological profiling of your behavior. The algorithm learns what keeps you engaged longest and feeds you more of that, whether it's good for you or not. The algorithm doesn't care about your well-being, your growth, or your happiness. It cares about engagement metrics. How long you stay on the app, how often you return, how much you interact. If content that makes you angry keeps you engaged longer than content that makes you happy, guess what you're going to see more of? The algorithm is basically a drug dealer who's figured out exactly which drugs get you most addicted. This creates what researchers call emotional contagion, where your mood is being manipulated by content specifically selected to trigger emotional responses. You might open Instagram feeling neutral and close it feeling anxious, inadequate, or angry, all because an AI system decided that emotional content keeps you scrolling longer than neutral content. Now let's talk about the psychological impact of this addiction. Social media addiction rewires your attention span. Your brain becomes so accustomed to rapid content switching that it starts to struggle with sustained attention on single tasks. Reading a book feels boring because it doesn't provide the constant novelty and stimulation that scrolling provides. It also damages what psychologists call present moment awareness. You're so used to documenting experiences for social media that you stop actually experiencing them. You watch concerts through your phone screen, visit tourist attractions just to take photos, and eat meals that get cold while you find the perfect angle. You're living your life as a content creator for an audience that mostly doesn't care, missing the actual experience in the process. The impact on sleep is catastrophic. The blue light from screens disrupts your circadian rhythm, but that's not even the main problem. The main problem is that social media activates your brain right before bed. You're lying in bed, scrolling through content that triggers emotions, comparison, anxiety, outrage, desire, and then wondering why you can't fall asleep. It's like trying to sleep immediately after watching a horror movie while drinking espresso. Social relationships suffer too. You're at dinner with friends, but everyone's on their phones, having more engaging interactions with strangers on the internet than with the people physically present. You're substituting deep, meaningful connections with shallow, digital interactions that create the illusion of connection without the substance. So how do you break free from this psychological prison? The first step is understanding that you can't willpower your way out of a system designed to override your willpower. You need to change the system itself. Start with the friction strategy. Add obstacles between you and your social media use. Delete the apps from your phone and only access them through a web browser. Turn off all notifications. Put your phone in another room when you're working or sleeping. These small amounts of friction give your brain a chance to consciously decide whether you really want to use social media, rather than mindlessly opening it. Use the time boxing method. Instead of trying to use social media less, give yourself specific, limited windows when you're allowed to use it. Maybe it's 20 minutes during lunch and 20 minutes before dinner. This transforms social media from an all-day background activity into a contained experience that you control. Implement replacement behaviors. The urge to check social media is often triggered by boredom, anxiety, or the need for a break. Have alternative behaviors ready. Go for a walk, do some stretches, read a few pages of a book, or chat with someone nearby. You're not trying to eliminate the need for breaks and stimulation. You're just replacing destructive behaviors with constructive ones. Practice conscious consumption. Before opening any social media app, ask yourself, what am I hoping to get from this right now? If you can't articulate a specific purpose, don't open it. This simple question creates a moment of reflection that breaks the automatic behavior pattern. Use app blockers strategically. There are apps that limit your access to other apps. Yes, it's ironic using technology to fight technology, but it works. Set up blockers that prevent you from accessing social media during work hours or after certain times at night. Try the grayscale technique. Change your phone's display to grayscale mode. Social media apps are designed with bright, engaging colors that trigger psychological responses. In grayscale, they become significantly less appealing, reducing the dopamine response and making them easier to resist. Most importantly, rebuild your tolerance for boredom and solitude. Social media addiction is partly driven by our inability to just sit with ourselves without constant stimulation. Practice being bored. Sit quietly for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but this discomfort is actually your brain relearning how to regulate itself without external stimulation. Remember, social media companies have spent billions of dollars and employed thousands of the world's smartest psychologists to make their platforms addictive. You're not weak for struggling with this. You're human, but you're also capable of recognizing manipulation and taking your attention back. The goal isn't to completely eliminate social media from your life if you don't want to. The goal is to transform it from something that controls you into something you control, from an addiction that serves corporate interests into a tool that serves your actual needs and values. Your attention is the most valuable resource you have. It's more valuable than your money because attention is what you use to earn money, build relationships, create things, and experience life. Every moment you spend mindlessly scrolling is a moment stolen from your actual life, and the people stealing it are profiting from the theft. Take your attention back. Break the cycle. Your brain will thank you, your relationships will improve, and you might discover that real life, the one happening outside the rectangular screen, is actually pretty interesting when you're paying attention to it. If this video made you realize just how manipulated you've been, smash that like button, subscribe to Mind Vault for more psychology that protects your mental health, and forward this to someone who might enjoy these insights as much as you did. Until next time, remember, you're not the customer of social media, you're the product being sold.